have to find your sweet spot and be able to take risks.
Welcome to the Insurance Refocused podcast, where we're highlighting real agent stories and how they are innovating to respond to the changes and challenges happening in the independent insurance industry. My name's Lindsay, and I can't wait to introduce you to my amazing co-host, who just so happens to be my mom, Carey Wallace. Mom, how you doing today?
I'm having a great day, Lindsay, and I'm pretty excited that we get to actually do this together today. This is like one of those unusual days where we're not in Hilton Head and Charleston, but we're actually sitting together in Nashville, one of the funnest cities in the world, getting to do a podcast together. So I'm saying I'm having a pretty good day.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's fun. We've got a crazy setup. We're going to have to take a picture of the background and post it out on LinkedIn to show everybody what this actually looks like right now, because it's hilarious. But super pumped to dive into the conversation today. We have an agent, Chris Larmore, joining us, and we're going to talk about some high-risk commercial niche and how he's utilizing AI. So, hey, Chris, how's it going?
Hi, nice to meet you. I really appreciate both of you having me on and the opportunity to chat. And I'm a big fan of the podcast, and I think it's great. Thank you so much.
Of course, yeah. So, Chris, I'd love to just start off with what brought you into the industry.
Originally, when I was going to college, I was sure I wanted to be an attorney. And my dad was an insurance guy at a letter house, and he was really good at it. And he had an awesome lifestyle, and he made great money and a great work-life balance. But I just thought, hey, I'm going to be an attorney. So I went to school, and I actually got hooked up with a clerkship my freshman year. And the attorneys work so hard. They work so hard. And they make a lot of money, but it's a really big grind of a life. And so eventually when I graduated, I looked at what my dad was doing. I was like, hey, that's a great lifestyle. And I had the benefit of a mentor built in through him too. So that was really cool, so that was sort of what started me into insurance. But I got a position at an agency down in Southern California out of school. A lot of people want to move out of Michigan because of the weather and stuff like that when they graduate.
I don't understand why, Chris. I really don't understand why. Just kidding. Yeah.
The Arctic tundra up here, But yeah, so I had taken a position in Cerritos, California, and met a girl down there. And then a couple years later, fast forward, we were pretty serious. I moved up to San Francisco, and I met an older gentleman that was ready to retire. And I was able to purchase his agency at the age of 22. And so it was awesome for me, but I was also a very young leader, at the time. So that's kind of how I got my start in the industry.
So Chris, tell me, how many years ago was, and not that I'm trying to ask your age, but how many years ago was that? Because I will tell you, I'm thinking about today's market and how amazing it is as a 22-year-old to have that opportunity. But the reality is there's so many people facing retirement in our industry. Yep. I mean, so anyway, how many years ago was that? And if you're brand new in the industry, listen closely, because this guy got the dream opportunity of the world, right?
I did, but you know what? They're still out there too, and you have to find your sweet spot and be able to take risk. I know a lot of agency owners that either purchased or built them between the ages of 20 and 30. And I know some that have cashed out at 35 with 15 years in for 10 million plus on their agency.
Sure.
It's a tremendous opportunity. I was really, blessed with the opportunity. It came together in a funky sort of way. But yeah, it's really been an awesome thing for me. And I'm 18 years now owning the agency, and I had 3 years of insurance experience prior to that. But I think that there are still opportunities out there. The mergers and acquisition environment is super aggressive right now. But a lot of the venture capital firms that are chasing that, and even the larger insurance companies like an Acrisure or something, they're not messing around with a mom or pop shop that has less than 5 employees. They're not super interested in it. They can't turn a big ROI on it. So my advice, if you're a young agent and you're getting started in sales and you're really confident in your leadership, get a list of insurance agencies in your state of people that have less than 5 employees and start relentlessly calling them and just introducing them to yourselves and saying, hey, long-term, I'd like to buy. But I think there's still a lot of opportunity out there, I hope.
Well, just for a stat, because I love stats and I love numbers. I don't know if you know me, but, 83% of independent agents are actually what you just described. They are under 1.25 million in revenue. Actually, half of those are under 500,000 in revenue. There's tons of opportunities. I would agree with you 1,000%. I'll also say that the small agency is the fastest growing area of people like starting up, which makes me really happy for this industry. But okay, so you're at 22. You started had the opportunity to buy an agency.
Yep.
What was the agency like, and what was your vision for what the agency success would be? Like, tell me the makeup of the agency as you bought it, and then what did you do with it?
I've always been a huge goal setter. And so even at the age of basically when I graduated college, I wrote down goals. Here's where I want to be. And I had already put down there, own my own agency when I was like 19,
Wow.
So I already kind of had the vision of that. I had spent 2 or 3 years working at larger agencies, primarily on construction risks. And at the time when I purchased the agency, they had a half a full-time employee, and it was an older gentleman who really became an awesome mentor to me also, but again, was ready to retire. They had about 350 or so personal line clients, and that was really the bulk of the agency at the time, so it was very small. But the coolest thing ever about the situation, and again, why it was serendipitous, is that the gentleman had signed an agreement with a cluster in which he had access to like 65 premier insurance carriers, and a lot of them wrote heavy duty construction risk. So it was like an immediate gateway for me for good carrier access, building equity within an agency instead of just selling and making that commission, which that's great too, but it was really good from that standpoint. And I knew pretty quickly I was going to morph it into an agency that was very specialized in construction insurance.
So is that just having the access is what led you into the space, or was there, something that actually drove you to those high risk commercial risks?
At the time, it started off more with construction, but what's funny is there's a story about that actually. But I walked into a really grisly old contractor shop who these are my bread and butter clients now. I love them, but these guys they're serious and they're not pulling punches a lot of times. And I walked in and I was like 21 working at another agency, and I was trying to solicit this guy for insurance, and I had set this a meeting. It was a cold call, and I walked in and the guy said, "I got underwear older than you, bud. Are you going to try and do my insurance?"
That's
and I was
funny.
like, "What?" It was a big deal, And I think because I was so young and I was a little chubbier, maybe baby faced, I would walk into places and I feel like, frankly, they just don't expect that, or they're fine maybe letting you quote or something. But the truth is it's easier to sell insurance if you got a little salt and pepper in your hair and you come in and you're more well seasoned. And so I wanted to be able to say to people, hey, listen, you can look at me and judge me based on what you want. Let's chat for half an hour or 45 minutes about protecting your company and risk management. And so at that juncture, when that guy had communicated that with me, I left that meeting thinking I'm going to be the most educated insurance person and risk manager in the nation. And so at the time, I started pursuing designations, and I was a good college learner too, and it carried over. But I completed a CIC, a CRM, a certified risk insurance specialist, an environmental protection specialist, an OHST, which is a safety consultant designation, and also the PHR, which was a human resource designation. And I started going out to smaller contractors and selling them, and it was awesome. But what I realized was that if I worked on bigger clients with complex problems that regularly have claim activity and a lot of moving pieces to their company, they value what I do more. I have a really careful relationship with those clients. I'm consulting them all the time. They're calling me with HR issues, safety issues, insurance issues. I mean, there's just a big gambit of stuff. And I think the depth of that relationship is awesome because it creates really high retention. So our retention with construction clients is 99.5% for 5 years running. We're giving them something they can't get somewhere else, I feel.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So through owning the agency, because all of this is when you were working at the other agency, correct?
I was working at the other agencies for there was 2 agencies. I worked at them for about 3 total years. And right around the 2.5 year or close to the 3 year mark was when I met a neighbor, and he was like, "Oh, my dad owns a little insurance office. You should meet him." And that's how I met the person that I acquired. It was like my neighbor. I had moved apartments. But like I quit that job. I quit a job as a salesperson to buy this agency, which came at a price and like real sacrifice, frankly, at the time. But yeah, that was like what afforded me the opportunity.
Gotcha. And so you just continued to build the same niche, but just within your own agency after purchasing it?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'd only had 3 years of experience at other shops. I was really talented at selling right out of the get. So like my second employer, I think I closed $1.5 million or $2 million in premium like the first 20 months that I was there. It just became apparent to me, even as a young man, watching my dad's experience, frankly, that at these big companies, and I think the venture capital firms have really figured this out, but at a really big insurance company, let's say it's like a Hub, for example, or really, frankly, in Arthur J. Gallagher, Highland, there's big regionals. They have layers of middle management that just suck up funds. And I frankly don't think a lot of them do a whole lot. They're really productive, but are they a producer or a service person? That's where the money comes from in insurance. And so, what you end up figuring out even as a young producer is like, okay, I'm getting this commission split. Maybe it's 35-25, whatever. They've shifted a lot over time, frankly, too. And not in favor of the producers on average. They've been reducing since I've been privy to that information. Is like, hey, there's a spread there. And that's why the venture capitalists love the business and acquisitions. You pay your producer 35-25, right? And you can go on the best practices survey, Reagan Consulting, if you haven't ever checked it out. I love data too. Let me tell you, I'm a data nerd. Reagan Consulting is as good as it gets, But like you look through that and you figure out, hey, listen, there in any healthy agency, there's a 10 to 18% spread of margin that is available there. And it can go towards middle management and huge layers of middle management and a sales manager to tell the sales guys what to do every day because they're not maybe as proactive or aggressive. Who knows what there is, but there's an extra margin there. What originally attracted me to buying the agency, I was young. I didn't know all the intricacies of the equity and stuff at the time. I got lucky. But it was like, hey, I can always pay myself an extra 12 to 15% long haul. I can control my agency. I can make sure the customer service is exceptional. It's all within my powers. And honestly, too, the biggest draw for me, and even long term, now I'm 20 plus years in the game, is the work-life balance and the flexibility that the opportunities afford me is awesome. And it's really led to me to have like a robust family life too. But yeah, I think at the time, I was more attracted to that. I didn't get the equity. As I got a little older and people started contacting me all the time to potentially acquire the agency, then I was really like, hey, agency value, maximize agency value. What do I need to get to? I think hopefully every agency owner's kind of like got their number, a lot of them.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too, Chris. Can you say that louder for the people in the back, would you? I think that's what everybody should be thinking about. Could not agree with you more. So you've decided to have a pretty niche-based agency, and talking about valuation, that's a thing that we pay attention to, and that can actually hurt an agency. It can help an agency. It can actually do both. There's a lot of things to think about. So from your perspective, running a niche-based agency, how do you deal with some of the challenges that can come from a specialized agency? Or how does that impact your decision on how to build your agency? Because anytime eggs are in a basket, something can challenge that. Like something can actually create it. We've already talked about the upside. You can get super, super efficient. You can have higher profitability. You can have really, really honed in relationships with carriers. But we're sitting in a market right now that if you're heavy in one carrier or 3 carriers, and they choose to have a different appetite, now we got some risk happening, right? Or if your eggs are all in one basket and something happens legislatively in the areas that you're operating, it can definitely create some risk. So tell me what your outlook was on how you picked your niche and you're thinking about that.
Yeah, I consider myself like a futurist,
Yeah.
which I think is not popular or common, frankly. And I've heard a lot of futurists speak, and I'm kind of like, I don't know. But even when I got in the industry, there were things that were like very apparent to me quickly. And again, I think that these are unpopular things to say in the industry too, but it's unfortunate. Like agency owners are misguided because of that. Personal lines was getting swallowed. Okay. Even when I started in the agency 15, 18 years ago, the amount of funding being spent by like State Farm and Progressive going direct, right? Not Progressive through agents, but Progressive direct. And at one stage in the game, Travelers contacted us because I had a personal lines book and said, hey, we're going to write direct through our website now too. Now we have AI pushing in, right? I think the personal lines insurance market was already commoditized when I started, and it's going to accelerate at the speed of light. And the truth is, buyers don't care as much about relationship anymore, and that's a general decline that's been on the case for a long time. So to me, and I inherited this personal lines book of business that was about 300 clients. I just divested from them last year, actually. So I'd had it for a long time. It was a new annuity. It paid like great, a lot of service work. But to me, it was like, hey, I don't want to be in personal lines, and I had already had the experience working with contractors a lot. And I saw like a good specialty path for the knowledge to be able to like take the CE that could really add them value. And I felt confident in that. But just to be clear too, like 90% of our premium is construction, but I also insure 10% of other high risk endeavors. And like, again, one of them is the diamond manufacturer. And I think they're probably at least the largest in the United States, but they're all over. They're a global company. And when you start talking about carriers and durability of clients, they're always going to buy from an agent. They want a risk consultant. They need someone super hands-on. And I think they will even longer term and even through AI, because relationships matter in that game in a big way. Yeah. Relationships matter for coverage. Relationships matter for boots on the ground if they have issues with a big claim or safety or OSHA or a lot of those things. So to me, it was just an area where I could say, hey, I'm going to build super durable relationships that should be there most of the rest of my career until I'm ready to retire. And I think in insurance, it's hard to say that right now. Like the personalized stuff becomes very transactional and retention suffers. Small commercials good, but extremely high risk stuff. Like you don't need a ton of clients, and I just think there's a lot of positives about it. In terms of the negatives, 08, 09, I had a whole bunch of clients go bankrupt. I mean, I probably had, and that was when I was newer to the industry too, and newer to the agency, but we had like 15 clients go belly up at that time. So it can definitely be tough,
So I got to tell you, I hear you, but what I love about this industry is you can be successful in a million different ways. Like the reality is one of my most successful agencies right now that is a fractional CFO client is 100% personal lines. And let me just tell you, operating at a 40 profitability, like growing double digits and have crushed it. It's really interesting to me that that's the beauty. Like you can get success in this industry with a lot of different structures and a lot of different strategies. And that's one of the best kept secrets in the planet. I'm not saying someone who's super niche based is better than someone who's super, because in a way they're pretty niche based because they only write personal lines. But let me tell you, their referral partners are locked in. Like they are super good at driving business to their agency and their people catch. So in their situation, no commission, everybody is an account manager. So imagine the profitability in that agency. It's really interesting. So, I love that you've chosen a niche, but I guess the other thing we're highlighting here is there's pros and cons to everything. And you just got to double down on the thing that makes the most sense to you, right?
Well, I think there's cons I haven't brought up either, but sure, like scalability is an issue.
Yeah.
I'm facing that right now, frankly. How long does it take someone to be a risk consultant for $1 million high risk accounts? I mean,
it takes a bit.
Train a salesperson, I can't hire an account manager. I need 5 years of building. So like, it's a real investment. So I do think there's downside to the situation. And I mean, personal lines, surety, I'm super interested in surety. If you want to talk about profitability, surety's through the roof,
Heck
there there was a lot I didn't know when I was younger in the industry too, but I'll tell you what, insurance carriers don't lose money. They don't. Long term, people complain about, I don't have losses and these kinds of things. Yeah, but your neighbors do, right? But long term, insurance carriers don't lose money, and insurance agencies don't either. I mean, I work consulting a fair number of agencies and have agency owner relationships with probably 40 agency owners that I pretty regularly talk to. And like all of them are doing great and have a good work-life balance and are profitable and are making money. Some of them are growing gangbusters and they're not doing what I'm doing because I can't train 5 guys at a time to do it, So yeah, I totally recognize that.
So in having, knowing that you're writing these large commercial lines risks and you can't onboard the normal account manager to help, how are you simplifying that for yourself and your team? Are you using AI? What's your process, for that look like?
That's an awesome question. So like I didn't take originally an approach for my agency and my goals for the agency even when I was really young. I set like 10 and 15 and 20-year goals. Even then, it was a lot more focused on like a lifestyle business and slow growth than it was like gangbuster growth. And so over time, what's happened is now my kids are in school. I have more free time. The agency's doing great. We're profitable, like in a good way. And I thought, hey, let's grow and invest, And I think even for the last about 3.5 or 4 years, I've been pushing into that more in making it and simplifying it for people, or training an account manager, for example, especially with like the labor issues we have as an industry right now. It's been a real struggle, And so a couple of the things that I've tried almost any labor solution that you can ask about, whether that's outsourcing internationally, direct hiring internationally, hiring USA, training out of college, whatever source, But like it is a bigger investment. I can't hire an account manager and have them writing accounts and helping people the first day. I think it's really a 12 to 36 month endeavor to train someone to be an account manager and do like our specialized things inside the agency. So that might be part of like the downside that we're talking about in terms of if you wanted to grow to be 50 million in premium quickly, I don't know that I'd pick this specialty, put it that way. But we are using AI because what's happened too, and I hate to admit it, is like especially United States-based employees, and I've been testing international employment for a while. We have employees directly in the Philippines now. And the employees in the Philippines are outperforming American employees 2 to 1, commonly 2 to 1. They're more enthused, they're more hardworking, they've been more reliable, there's less entitlement. It's been profound. But either way, problem-solving skills and the ability for people to just pick up the phone and solve problems is disappearing in the workforce right in front of our face for some reason. And it's been so frustrating to me. We have meticulously written, customized workflows for the agency, robust training programs, a video for every single process at the agency with someone doing it and narrating through that. And then we have a set of best practices and a written workflow that go with that. Even with all those resources and the people in the Philippines outperforming Americans, we do really high risk stuff. I can't have a 10% error rate on my client's work. We're going to have claims. We write business knowing we're going to have a pile of claims, So I would say it's been a challenge, but one of the things that I recently started doing, and we kind of funnily named it a Chris bot, I could actually screen share and show it with you, is that we made an AI Slack chat bot that you can ask questions, and it's called Chris Bot with laser red eyes. It's kind of funny, but you can ask questions, and if I've ever referenced it in any way, okay, it can be in a recorded video training, it can be in the transcripts of the training, it can be in my workflows, it can be in my procedural manuals, it can be out on the internet if it's coverage knowledge and some of those kinds of things. We carefully built this and prioritized where the info comes from. But now I have an RCIA AI chatbot that employees can go to and say, hey, what's going on with underinsured motorists? What is that? How does the agency feel about it? Or, hey, I need to process an endorsement. We have employees that we've showed a process 3 or 4 times. They still need to consult the materials. do I want to spend someone's mentorship or shadowing time doing that, And I think it can be tough because a lot of those people are buried in the work right now. And so you can go to this AI chatbot, and if you want, I can share that with you. Are you comfortable with that?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
I like the Chris bot with the laser red eyes.
Just talk us through what you're doing in case anyone's us through what you're doing in case anyone is only listening to audio.
Yeah, no problem. So we use Slack as our agency communication tool, but you could easily build the same thing for your agency in like Microsoft Teams or whatever chat service you use to quickly communicate with each other. But the premise is that, again, it's like a reference source and a research tool. So if I have an employee that has a question, they can go in and ping the Chris bot up here, and they can ask some questions. So like one of the ones that we asked up here was, can you, based on the context, can you give me best practices about quoting? And it'll spit out the best practices out of our best practice document. What are the agency minimum limits for auto insurance? Hey, I'm quoting auto insurance, and it'll spit out the agency minimum limits here. And so it's something that I'm really aggressively testing because with people's difficulty problem solving, a lot of times they just need to point in the right direction. And this might be someone that we're training that is literally pinging a current account manager 50 times a day, trying to really diligently learn our processes and where the materials are. But like it can even point you to files and stuff like that too. Where can I find the workflow for endorsing a policy? Or we did one yesterday. A client calls in with a claim, what do I do? And it'll be like, hey, there's this guide and here's some information and some general steps. So this is one of the first things that I think is going to be a useful tool for us in terms of like employee efficiency and training efficiency and trying to scale, the agency in a way that like, even if you're newer to the agency, you can get some of that sage advice really quickly. And it references, and the materials that we've learned it on are really profound. It's every training video we have and like all of our materials, plus what you can find on the internet, which I'm skeptical of all that. But
one of the most valuable things we have is time. And one of the biggest challenges in our industry is finding talent. And so this is actually addressing both of those things. So if you've got talent, they don't have time to act, and you find new talent, don't have the time to actually train the new people. So I love the concept. I absolutely do. I think everybody should be thinking about that, and everybody should be thinking about it from a closed perspective. You feed the information that you want that to be, not open AI or Chat GPT that you have no idea what the sources are. I'm not saying that that's not strong. It's just not for this purpose. So super fantastic. So Chris, I got to tell you, man, we could probably talk to you for hours and hours and hours. We really could. You're fascinating. What I love about your story is, number one, you were able to have an opportunity to buy an agency super young. You set a plan and you clearly executed it. And what I think is more important is you're changing with the times. Like you have owned an agency through a period of time that rapid growth and rapid change around us has happened. You were in 2008 when things were not happening. You also went through COVID. Like, listen, this industry is not slowing down, and its change is not slowing down. It's speeding up. So good for you for keeping up with that and continuing to innovate. It's super impressive. So let me ask you this, like if there's an agent listening to this or a young person in the industry listening to this and they're like, man, I want to pick his brain because I'd love to buy an agency and I'd love to talk about how did you make that happen? Or they want to dig into any of these topics we've talked to, how can they reach out to you?
I'm happy to take calls on my cell phone, which we can post up because I just love chatting with agency owners and people that are growing in the industry. And then also my email address is chris@redcedaragency.com. And you can check out the website, redcedaragency.com. And we actually, I think it's paywalled right now, but I just built a sales tool that's going to be AI intelligent for newer salespeople to the industry to help them understand how to develop sales. And we're going to offer that for to people. But right now you have to at least have a login on redcedaragency.com to get it. But I think like one of the coolest things about the industry that I've found people are eager to help people. There's been so many agents that have helped me along the way, and anything I can do to help any agency grow and thrive. I mean, I just think it's an awesome industry, and I'm happy to pay it back that way.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story. I got to tell you, man, I don't think this is the last time you'll be on. I'm pretty sure we'll be talking again soon. So thanks again, man.
I really appreciate that. Thank you both for your time. Have a good one.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Insurance Refocused podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to hit subscribe and leave us a review so you'll never miss us. Want to learn more about how Agency Focus can help you grow your agency? Head to agency-focus.com or email Carey directly at carey@agency-focus.com. If you need to get in touch with me, feel free to shoot me an email at lindsay@agency-focus.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.